What happens when fame, money, and a platinum record can't protect you anymore? And what does it say about America's prison system when one of rap's biggest young stars reportedly ends up fighting for his safety behind bars? That's the question surrounding Pooh Shiesty right now. The Memphis rapper, once celebrated as one of the fastest rising names in hip-hop, is reportedly dealing with the harsh realities of federal prison after alleged violent incidents involving gang politics inside the facility where he's serving time. And whether you're a rap fan or not, this story goes far beyond music. Because at its core, this is about survival, reputation, and the dangerous collision between street culture and the prison system. Before we get deeper into what reportedly happened, let's take a step back and remember how quickly Pooh Shiesty's life changed. Born Lontrell Donnell Williams Jr. in Memphis, Tennessee, he exploded onto the music scene at a remarkably young age. By just 20 years old, he had become one of the hottest new artists in hip-hop. Signed to Gucci Mane's 1017 label, Pooh Shiesty captured national attention with his gritty delivery, Memphis energy, and breakout hit Back in Blood alongside Lil Durk. His mixtape Shiesty Season debuted near the top of the charts. Millions of fans were streaming his music. Industry insiders believed he was headed toward superstardom. But then everything changed. In 2021, Pooh Shiesty pleaded guilty to conspiracy to commit robbery tied to a Florida incident involving stolen property and gun violence. By 2022, he was sentenced to more than 5 years in federal prison. And here's something many people on the outside don't fully understand. Once someone enters the federal prison system, celebrity status means very little. Think about that for a moment. How many entertainers spend years building an image powerful enough to influence millions of people? Yet the second those prison doors close, much of that fame disappears. Inside, entirely different rules apply. In prison, your chart positions don't matter. Your followers don't matter. Even your money can become a problem rather than protection. According to circulating reports, Pooh Shiesty became involved in a serious altercation inside prison, allegedly involving inmates connected to Crip affiliations. Reports claimed he suffered injuries significant enough to spark widespread concern online, including rumors of severe facial injuries and the loss of a tooth. Now, it's important to be careful with details involving prison incidents because information often spreads through unofficial channels. Exact specifics can become exaggerated or distorted. But what has remained consistent across multiple discussions is that something serious reportedly happened. And the bigger story here isn't just one fight. It's why situations like this happen at all. Many people assume famous rappers enter prison with automatic respect. In reality, fame can actually make someone a bigger target.
Why?
Because prison is heavily influenced by hierarchy, affiliations, and reputation. A well-known rapper walks in carrying an image that others may want to challenge. In some environments, testing a celebrity becomes a way for others to gain attention, status, or credibility. And once gang politics enter the picture, things become even more dangerous. Pooh Shiesty comes from Memphis, a city with its own unique street culture and neighborhood affiliations. But federal prison mixes inmates from all over America into one environment. Los Angeles gang politics collide with Memphis politics. Chicago crews mix with New York affiliations. Rivalries don't stay outside. They follow people inside. That's why prison experts and former inmates often describe federal facilities as extremely tense social environments where every interaction matters. Now here's where the story becomes especially complicated. A lot of people online have asked, why wouldn't someone in Pooh Shiesty's position simply request protective custody? On paper, that sounds reasonable. Protective custody, often called PC, exists to separate inmates believed to be at risk. For ordinary people outside prison culture, the decision seems obvious. If you're in danger, seek protection. But prison culture doesn't always reward survival decisions. In many street-oriented environments, entering protective custody carries a stigma. Some people view it as weakness. Others label it checking in, implying someone couldn't survive in general population. And for rappers whose careers are built around authenticity and toughness, that label can follow them long after release. Think about the pressure attached to that. Imagine being in your early 20s, globally recognized, financially successful, and still feeling trapped between two terrible choices. Protect your physical safety but risk damaging your credibility. Or protect your image while remaining exposed to violence. That's a brutal dilemma for anyone. And it reveals something uncomfortable about the culture surrounding modern rap music. For years, audiences have rewarded artists who appear closest to real street life. Fans praise authenticity. Labels market danger. Social media glorifies toughness. But what happens when the image stops being entertainment and becomes real-life survival? That's where stories like this become tragic. Because regardless of anyone's mistakes, prison violence isn't entertainment. It's still human suffering. And there's another layer many people overlook, the mental impact. Imagine the emotional whiplash. One year you're headlining shows, recording music, traveling the country, and seeing millions of fans quote your lyrics online. The next year you're sleeping in a crowded federal dormitory with little privacy, constant tension, and limited communication with the outside world. Meanwhile, the music industry keeps moving without you. New artists rise overnight. Viral songs dominate TikTok for a month and disappear just as quickly. Record labels search endlessly for the next face, the next trend, the next personality capable of capturing attention in an era where audiences scroll faster than they listen. And while the world outside continues evolving at full speed, you remain trapped behind concrete walls and steel doors, watching life continue without you. For someone like Pooh Shiesty, that reality carries a unique kind of psychological weight. Because rap careers move fast. One year you're headlining shows, surrounded by cameras, chains flashing under stage lights while crowds scream every lyric back at you. The next year, people are debating whether your career is already over. In hip-hop, momentum can disappear almost instantly. Fans may stay loyal emotionally, but the industry itself rarely waits for anyone. Algorithms move on. Producers move on. Even friends sometimes move on. And imagine sitting inside a prison cell knowing all of that is happening in real time. Imagine hearing another Memphis artist rising while your own music slowly fades from playlists. Imagine birthdays passing, trends changing, younger rappers replacing your spot in conversations that once revolved around you. How would that affect someone mentally? How would it reshape their sense of identity? That creates an even deeper question. What happens to a rapper's identity when the fame disappears and only the person remains? For many celebrities, fame becomes inseparable from self-worth. Crowds, interviews, luxury cars, social media attention. Over time, those things can begin to feel permanent. But prison strips almost all of that away. Suddenly nobody cares about streaming numbers inside those walls. Nobody cares about platinum plaques during count time. Survival, routine, and respect become more important than celebrity status. And mature audiences understand this reality better than most younger viewers. Life can change with terrifying speed. One bad decision, one wrong influence, one emotional reaction, one night of recklessness, and an entire future can shift permanently. Success disappears faster than people expect. Sometimes the hardest battles are not financial or physical, but internal. Battles involving guilt, fear, regret, pride, loneliness, and the terrifying realization that you cannot undo the past. That emotional pressure becomes even heavier in prison because there is almost nowhere to escape your own thoughts. Long nights feel longer behind bars. Silence becomes louder. Regret becomes more personal. Questions begin repeating endlessly inside your mind. What could I have done differently? Who stayed loyal? Who disappeared? Will people still care when I come home? Will I even be the same person when I leave? Now let's separate prison reality from Hollywood fantasy. Movies often portray celebrity inmates receiving special treatment, private protection, comfortable environments, or easy respect because of their fame. But former inmates, correctional officers, and prison experts frequently describe something far less glamorous. Federal prison life is extremely structured. Wake-up times are controlled. Movements are monitored. Privacy barely exists. Most inmates share spaces with others constantly. Every interaction carries social meaning. Every conversation can become political. Every sign of weakness may be noticed. And tension inside prison can build quickly. Conflicts often revolve around territory, race, gang affiliation, money, reputation, disrespect, or survival itself. Something as small as a misunderstanding during a meal or a perceived insult can escalate into violence faster than outsiders realize. Even commissary becomes important. To ordinary people, commissary snacks may seem trivial. But inside prison, access to food, hygiene products, shoes, clothing, and small comforts can become a form of status and leverage. Celebrities are often assumed to have outside financial support. Other inmates may believe they have access to more money, better resources, or stronger connections. And that perception alone can create danger. Some inmates reportedly face extortion attempts or pressure to provide favors, money, or protection payments. Refusing those demands can sometimes escalate tensions dramatically. Ironically, fame may increase risk inside prison rather than reduce it. That's another uncomfortable truth many people outside rarely think about. Being famous does not automatically make someone safe in prison. In some situations, it can make them a target. And when violence does happen, prisons are not always equipped to stop it immediately. Correctional officers cannot physically monitor every corner every second of the day. Staff shortages, overcrowding, institutional limitations, and understaffed facilities create environments where altercations can escalate rapidly before intervention occurs. Critics of the American prison system have pointed toward these problems for years. They argue that many prisons prioritize containment over rehabilitation. Violence becomes normalized. Gang structures develop their own systems of power. Vulnerable inmates learn quickly that survival often depends on alliances, intimidation, or reputation. Whether someone agrees with those criticisms or not, stories involving high-profile inmates shine a spotlight on realities millions of unknown incarcerated people face every day. And perhaps that's the most important takeaway from this entire situation. Because for every famous rapper whose story trends online, there are thousands of ordinary inmates navigating similar fears with no public attention at all. No headlines. No interviews. No viral debates online. Just human beings waking up every day trying to survive another difficult environment. That does not excuse criminal behavior. But it does force society to confront larger questions about what prison is actually supposed to accomplish. Punishment, rehabilitation, protection, deterrence, or simply survival. America still struggles to answer those questions clearly. Some believe prison should focus primarily on punishment. Others argue rehabilitation reduces future crime more effectively. Some believe dangerous individuals must simply be isolated from society. Others question whether violent prison environments create even more damaged individuals upon release. And when stories involving celebrity inmates become public, those debates return immediately. Another important aspect of this story involves internet culture itself. The moment reports surfaced claiming Pooh Shiesty allegedly lost a tooth during an altercation, social media exploded with jokes, memes, sarcastic videos, and mockery. Timelines filled instantly with people treating the situation like entertainment. But pause for 1 second and step away from the internet mentality. A young man in federal custody reportedly suffered serious injuries. That is not a meme. That is reality. And regardless of public opinion regarding his legal troubles, the justice system sentenced him to incarceration, not violent assault. That distinction matters deeply. A civilized society should be capable of holding individuals accountable while still believing they deserve basic physical safety. Those ideas are not contradictory. Accountability does not require cruelty. Justice does not require dehumanization. Yet online culture often removes empathy from serious situations. Why? Because distance makes suffering easier to joke about. Because people consume headlines emotionally rather than thoughtfully. Because social media rewards the fastest reaction, not the deepest reflection. And perhaps that says something troubling about modern culture itself. When did real human pain become entertainment? Why are audiences so comfortable laughing at destruction as long as it happens through a phone screen? Now there's also growing discussion surrounding what this situation means for Pooh Shiesty's future career. Hip-hop history shows incarceration affects artists in dramatically different ways. Some rappers return from prison stronger than before. Their experiences become part of their mythology. Fans interpret survival as authenticity. Public curiosity increases. Albums perform better. Interviews gain more attention. Others struggle deeply after release. Some return emotionally disconnected from audiences. Others battle trauma, anxiety, paranoia, depression, or difficulty adjusting to freedom again. Creativity changes. Relationships collapse. Momentum disappears. The key difference often depends on the condition they return in, physically, mentally, emotionally, and psychologically. And that's what makes prison violence particularly sobering. Physical injuries eventually heal. Psychological scars can last far longer. A person may recover externally while still carrying fear, anger, or emotional damage internally for years. Experiences involving violence often reshape how people trust others, how they react under stress, and how they view the world around them. Will Pooh Shiesty return emotionally hardened, traumatized, more mature, more dangerous, more focused, completely changed? Nobody truly knows. But prison experiences frequently alter people permanently, especially individuals entering adulthood under those circumstances. Youth matters here more than many audiences realize. At 20 or 21 years old, most people are still figuring out who they are. Now combine youth with sudden fame, large amounts of money, public pressure, dangerous environments, ego, bad influences, and constant expectations to appear fearless. That combination can become explosive. Hip-hop history is filled with enormously talented artists whose careers were interrupted or destroyed by violence, addiction, incarceration, poor decisions, or toxic surroundings. And perhaps that's partly why this story resonates so strongly with audiences. Because beneath the headlines exists something sadder than internet drama. Wasted potential. Many people believed Pooh Shiesty represented one of the next major voices from Memphis. His raw energy, authenticity, and aggressive delivery connected with listeners nationwide. Fans saw charisma. Labels saw profitability. The industry saw long-term potential. Now his future feels uncertain. And maybe the saddest part is that audiences no longer seem shocked by stories like this. When violence involving rappers appears online today, many people react with numbness. The cycle has repeated so many times that tragedy begins feeling routine. Another rapper arrested. Another shooting. Another prison sentence. Another funeral. Another headline. Over time, repeated exposure creates emotional desensitization. But maybe that numbness is exactly why stories like this deserve serious reflection instead of shallow gossip. What kind of culture are we creating when young entertainers feel trapped between maintaining dangerous images and protecting their own safety? Why does authenticity in hip-hop sometimes become tied to self-destruction? Why do audiences reward pain while ignoring its consequences? And why does prison violence continue feeling inevitable instead of preventable? Those questions extend far beyond one artist. They connect to poverty, masculinity, fame, entertainment culture, social media psychology, systemic violence, and the complicated relationship between rap music and street credibility. For decades, hip-hop has reflected realities many communities already lived through long before cameras arrived. Violence in rap did not appear from nowhere. It often reflected environments shaped by poverty, instability, lack of opportunity, broken systems, and generational trauma. But the commercialization of that pain created another uncomfortable dynamic. The industry profits from dangerous images while young artists often live under pressure to maintain them publicly. Fans demand authenticity, yet authenticity itself can become dangerous when it ties entertainers too closely to violent lifestyles. That creates enormous pressure for young rappers trying to survive both artistically and socially. Can they separate themselves from the streets without losing credibility? Can they mature publicly without audiences calling them fake? Can they evolve peacefully while still satisfying fans attracted to aggression and danger? Those contradictions are rarely discussed honestly. At the end of the day, Pooh Shiesty is still a human being. A son. A young man. A person who achieved extraordinary success early in life, made serious mistakes, and now faces the consequences inside one of America's harshest institutional environments. Reports involving attacks, gang tensions, prison politics, and violence remind the public that incarceration is rarely as simple as people imagine from the outside. There are constant pressures, constant calculations, constant risks involving loyalty, safety, reputation, and survival. And for high-profile inmates, the spotlight only intensifies those pressures further. Every rumor spreads faster. Every altercation becomes national conversation. Every mistake becomes entertainment. Meanwhile, the actual person living through those moments remains trapped inside the reality itself. As fans continue hoping Pooh Shiesty eventually returns home safely, perhaps this story should force a broader conversation about violence, celebrity culture, masculinity, rehabilitation, and the realities of prison life in America. Because once the music stops, once the interviews disappear, once the headlines fade away, what remains is something far more serious than internet drama. It is a real human being trying to survive a very real situation. And maybe the biggest question of all is this: How many more talented young lives will follow this same path before society finally decides the cycle needs to change?